Step 1, kneading the clay. So I'm kneading the clay this morning so I can continue work on the sculpture. And this time I'm using epoxy, Sculpt, Avi's, these two, greenstuff, and some super sculpty baking clay. I'm mixing about a 1-to-1 ratio for the two resin clays and about a 0.5 ratio for the super sculpty. So basically very little of the super sculpty, and this gives me a modeling putty that is nice and soft, still sticky, but also very mixable. So like when you'll see when I put on the armature, I can spread it better. It's not so gummy. So to build up my torso and chest, I use slightly larger globs of clay and begin to even them out and spread them and mix them and all that good stuff. And then I will begin on the armor. Now for the weapon of this figure, I'm going to be using a bit that I have because I have a ton of these and I want to use them up, so that'll save me a little bit of time. But first I gotta get this figure done. Alright. So to begin defining the torso of the figure and shaping it, I use my paddle tool and slowly begin to smoothen out the clay. And I also use the neck of the other tip and create this wedge in between the chest area and the torso in order to fit a belt later, and just to give a little bit more definition. And I do a little bit of that rolling pin motion, right? And just keep slowly building it up. And I do use water during this step to make sure the clay doesn't stick and I don't tear it. It's not as sticky as originally though, because of the mix that I did, but it's still a bit sticky, and I don't want to ruin the work once everything is done. So this is the step where I define the waist and the armor on the chest, and he's gonna have a little cape back here. I'm using snowtroopers from Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and all that as inspiration, and then I change things around. So here's the buttocks. I'm not going to spend too much time on because it's going to be covered by this little cape. I do want to get it shaped though, and the rest of the figure is hardened because I let it harden overnight. That's what I usually do. So I continue by defining the waist area and again using the neck of my tool to get this area here in the middle, get it nice and narrow. I also begin to bulk up the arms and round them up a bit, and I'm using tapping motions at this step. Also started sculpting with more green stuff. And begin to define a hole here. I do a hole with my ball tool to begin to define the open areas of the armor. So like where the neck is, and a little bit back here, very carefully. And I wet my tool as often as necessary and just start to define shapes a little bit. Using the tip of the tool. Okay, but you can start to see some definition. There's a lot of ways to make the armor. We'll look at that next. Right now I just want to make sure that I have all the shapes that I want. Now this area again is going to be covered by a small cape, like a small waist like a loincloth, basically, like snow troopers have. So, alright, so now starts the, I don't want to say the detail phase, but yeah, you are working with very small detail and doing very, very gentle taps of the tools, whatever tools you're using. And I go back and forth between my scalpel and my paddle tool. So start to define areas and start to shape. This is the part that takes the longest time. So I continue to define areas of armor and very carefully poking with my sharp tool here to open up some areas where the armor would open up, and you can see just how slowly and gently I'm going. This is the part that requires the most patience. So I'm going to, I can continue using this tool actually. Start to define the armor plate for the chest and back, which is probably the primary one. And later we'll add some shoulder pads to define the arms here. And as you can see, I thickened up the arms and have the arms ready. Now I can snip these extra pieces. I also begin to further define any joints in the armor by very carefully pressing the sleeves, the green stuff that forms the sleeves, underneath the part that forms the armor, and it forms these little ridges here that will better represent the armor. So again, this is the hardest part of the figure, this and the details. So smooth clay shaper now becomes important to smoothen areas. Not too bad, not too bad. So to enhance the armor pieces, I begin to add pure procreate to the green stuff, and then very, very gently, very slowly begin to shape these areas. Now these are just little round globs, and I wet my tool and just very slowly begin to shape them and add them as armor. And reason why I do that is that it allows me to see the armor quite, it just stands out. Since it's such a different color, and that just helps me shape things a little better. So I'm going to continue to do this and flatten those pieces out. So I'm beginning to define the helmet a little bit, and I'm going to finish that tomorrow. I have to do some shaping still on it, and so I use my paddle tool. This is a time when I use a lot of my soft clay shaper and define areas that I need detail, and very slowly kind of shape things. And then the armor plates, the same thing. They're embedded into the green stuff, so I'm gonna just shape them a little bit before I let this dry. This is the stage that I'm gonna stop in, and already we've advanced quite a bit. So here is size comparison with a Necromunda trooper. So not bad. I'm trying to keep things small. Also, I do a few folds of cloth with the smooth clay shaper. It works very well to kind of highlight little folds of cloth. And tomorrow I continue to define things, and if areas that need more clay, I fix them up, whatever. But so far, so good. Okay, and this is where I left off today. Still doing a little bit of smoothing around the visor. But there it is. It's the smallest miniature that I've made so far. Still needs work. So work in progress. Okay, and there he is with the gun bit. I'm starting to shape the arms so he can hold the gun. And I'll be working on that gun as well with a little green stuff. And there he goes.